And as we welcome our international viewers to our V8 Supercar coverage, let's take a look at the Fuso grid for race 2. Garth Tander there starting from position 1. That's his 8th race win of the season, which already bettered his tally from 2006 when he pocketed 7th. As we mentioned, Jamie Whincup started pole, finished 4th. Both of these guys, by the way, love Sunday racing. Craig Lowndes and Will Davison, they've only been outside the top 10 once throughout this season on the Sunday. Rick and Todd Kelly, the brothers, side by side. Todd made up 2 spots in race 1, and Russell Ingall, well, both SBR cars are in the top 10 after their debacle in Darwin. He'll start alongside Mark Winterbottom with Stephen Johnson and Paul Morris, who moved up 8 positions yesterday.
Several things to look out for in this race today, race 2 of 3 in the sprint race format. Garth Tander obviously had great pace yesterday, winning by a margin, but still thinks he can do a better job of looking after the rear tyres on that car. They've made a small adjustment, and yesterday in the compulsory pit stop, they changed the working side tyres down the left side of the car. Most of his rivals changed the rear tyres only. Over rev for Rick Kelly, and we're going to have a bit of a look at that a bit later. Some other information: Stephen Richards was caught up in an awkward pit stop where one of the light triggers that they have on their pit boom was accidentally activated, and it just caused a moment of hesitation there, and he lost some track position as a result of that. Steve Ellery down the field and back in this weekend in preparation for his run at Sandown and Bathurst. Damage to an anti-roll bar on that car. Simon Wills carried a flat spot on a tyre through the race, and a number of people not finishing the race, Matthew, including Lee Holdsworth, Jason Richards, Shane Price, Alan Gurr, Jack Perkins, Cam McConville. That is the Fuso start grid. And incidentally, John Bauer given the equivalent of a pit lane drive-through penalty for his role in the incident at turn 1. If you weren't with us yesterday, you might have noticed 2 new faces for this season, but familiar faces for the championship. Neil mentioned one, Steve Ellery, driving car 39. Gearing up for the Enduros and replacing Fabian Coulthard. And Paul Wheel, who's done his time in this championship quite a few years, comes into the seat at car number 20 in favour of Paul Dumbrell. In pit lane today, we'll have Mark Beretta, Daniel Gibson. And it's great to have Grant Denyer back with us. G'day, mate.
Mate, I never left. I'd never leave my brothers from other mothers. It's great to be back. Look, just having a little giggle with Tander and Rick Kelly after yesterday's race, and they were talking about, of course, Garth finished 1st, Rick finished 7th. So if you're the teammate and leading the championship like Rick Kelly is, what would you wish for overnight? I want what Tander's got, is exactly what he said, and that's exactly what the team have delivered him. His setup will mirror Garth Tander's today, so look forward to him moving forward and protecting his championship.
Grant, good to have you back, mate. Mark Scaife yesterday had an interesting race. Guys, you talked a lot yesterday about the bumps on this circuit. They're quite famous here at Queensland Raceway, and Mark Scaife, every time he hit one in 4th gear, the car would jump out of gear. So last night, they've replaced the gearbox. Scaife's got a new gearbox.
All right, thank you, boys. Let's show you the in-car coverage that we'll have throughout these races today. Max Wilson, the WOW Racing Ford. Car number 8. He finished up in the points yesterday. In fact, both Jason Bargwanna and Max finished in the points. There's Russell Ingall, starting from position 9.
Saw a shot there a moment ago of Cam McConville. Brand new car for him, damaged yesterday. Craig Lowndes, his left rear tyre got very second-hand late in the race. That was the reason why he struggled, didn't have the balance in the car that he was looking for. In fact, his teammate Jamie Whincup, the pole sitter, was able to slide by later in the event. Here's Rick Kelly, the Big Pond in-car camera this weekend. Now, yesterday, if you're watching our coverage on 7, you probably noticed that there was a fair old battle going on between he and Mark Winterbottom. Listen to this. That would be a neutral at just the wrong time, and that's what triggered this little incident here in yesterday's race 1. And they were coming off turn 3, and Rick, as he made the change from 3rd to 4th, grabbed a neutral, bit of a buzz of the engine, about 8,500, 8,600 odd revs, and it was enough for Mark to get into the back of the car. And at the time, it was a bit of a puzzle for us, which we've now solved.
Wasn't the only problem, Neil, too, with engines. For Performance Racing's Mark Winterbottom, who we just touched on there, dropped down to 7 cylinders, around 3 laps to go. The team have actually found a broken piece of the cylinder head casting, so an engine change for that team. Interesting to note also yesterday, DJR, 3.2 seconds were both the stops, and in one of those, the data still showed the front wheels turning as the rears lifted off the ground. So one to watch in pit lane today.
30 starters, 38 laps is 120 Ks around this circuit. The compulsory pit stops, or pit stop, needs to be completed in between laps 5 and 26. And there's the conditions for us. Pretty good actually, but a bit more wind around today than there was for race 1 yesterday. Mark Scaife got a good start in race 1. Garth Tander muscled his way past Jamie Whincup. Here we go. The second race of round 7. What does the paperclip have in store for us today? Another good one by Scaife. Tander on the inside line. Scaife will cut across. And Jamie Whincup finds himself on the outside, but squeezes past James Courtney.
Start Mark Scaife. He and Garth were well and truly arguing over the territory on the run into 1. But in the end, Garth just decided to slot in. And look at them all driving down the dirty side of the road here to protect. No one wants to be passed in the braking area down here. Lowndes up the inside as well, into the back of Courtney, and in turn hit by Rick Kelly. It triggers a concertina, and around goes Stephen Johnson and one of the Team BOC cars. You could see that coming when they all went nose to tail down there. It's typical Simon Wills.
We saw that. Just keep it calm. Make sure the car's all right. If it is, we're all ready for you. If it's not, we're all ready for you. Just keep it together, mate. You're right.
Pretty much the normal situation down into turn 3 when they all go nose to tail down there. Tander right in behind Scaife at turn 6. Compulsory pit stop window. Rob Starr on the radio opens at lap 5. So Whincup's made a gain there off the start. And so has Mark Scaife to lead at the end of the first lap with a standing lap time of 1 minute 18.4. Tander up the inside at 2. That'd be a rare move. It might slow him down here. He could be a bit vulnerable to Whincup if you change your entry line at 2. Oh, he tries to go around the outside here. Whoa, side by side with Scaife. And Whincup could go up the inside here.
This will be crucial. Scaife, Tander, contact. Whincup, will he be the winner out of all of this?
The Holden blokes are arguing. This is good news for Whincup. He could end up in the lead of this motor race.
Up they go to turn 4. The left-hander, so Scaife's got the line. Look at Tander. Inches, millimetres, less than that.
Mark used second in turn 4, then short shifted to third, then just to make sure that he had the squirt off the corner. He looked a bit vulnerable in the first lap there, Scaife. And Tander tried to go round the outside at 2. Rick Kelly's tried to put a move there on Will Davison, and Jason Bright, a mechanical black flag for car 25.
Craig Lowndes got the move on Will Davison, so Lowndes will go up to 5th. The order at the front, while it could have changed 2 or 3 times, remains the same for that lap around. Take a look at this. Craig Lowndes will get Will Davison on the outside, on the inside here. Down to turn 6.
Not much space, but he got it done.
And Kelly has another look. Here we go, Tander has been threatening on Scaife. He wants that clean air. Lowndes has another look, this time at James Courtney. Courtney's been very patient while those 3 in front of him have been swapping paint. The gap closes. 2 left-handers on the inside of this circuit. Down to turn 6, identical to turn 3, where the mishaps unfolded. Look how deep Garth Tander goes there.
A little bit too deep that time because he lost ground. He went very high and wide in the middle of 6. Holds his ground though, but Whincup is right there if he makes a mistake. That's Jason Bright that peeled off into the pit lane there in the background. That's the mechanical black flag for whatever the damage is that's on his car that they need to attend to. The compulsory pit stop window has not yet opened. That happens on lap 5. Scaife with a little margin now. It's the rear bumper on Jason's car. There's quite a bit of tank damage on the back of that car too, just in the outer casing of the fuel tank.
go for a ride with Craig Lowndes, who's in 5th position. Courtney has already lost 1 from the start. Lowndes thinks he's vulnerable.
Scope's done the fastest split to the 2nd sector. Got a little gap now, about 2 car lengths over Tander.
Work, mate.
That's the fastest lap of the race, a 1:12.026, 0.4 of a second. He's gained a little bit. There's something hanging off the rear there of Scopes.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the rear bumper and a little bit of the underbody there.
The crew's getting ready for the pit window to open.
If you want half a pound out of left rear, mate. Yes, please.
This is the action that unfolded. You can see Stephen Johnson got turned around 360. Max Wilson avoided him. Simon Wills got caught up in the back. Contact before that involving Rick Kelly as well.
Tander's done 11.7. He was a 10th quicker than Scape on that lap. Also got an unofficial report that this car has got a broken rocker. Perhaps it's on 7 cylinders. That was the speculation on their radio. A bit of damage around the front of it. Chris O'Toole there just guiding Richards into his pit bay. So that's bad news 2 days in a row that there may be some issue engine-wise with the FPR cars.
The pit window has now officially opened. Yesterday in race 1, Tander peeled off and Scape stayed out. Who will do what?
Scape's going to come in this lap. Pit lane is now open for the compulsory stop. And Mark's got track position. Winterbottom here, he's 8th at the moment. We're looking rearward from Rick Kelly's car, as it was yesterday. And he's in, so's Mark Winterbottom. Now they're under control of the pit lane speed limiter.
Jacks to 4, CPS light off, CPS light off.
6 cars come in all together.
Oh, it's slow, very slow. The nut wouldn't release.
Now you can see the frustration of the crew. That's what Scape was thinking. Rick Kelly, oh, there's a 3-way jam. A 3-way jam. Kelly's going to be the loser out of it.
Oh, gee, that was so confusing. He was getting stop, go, stop, go, stop, go commands on the radio, and it just turned into a horror story. And somebody, I didn't pick up who it was given the command for jacks to 4. So somebody actually changed all 4 wheels and tyres there. We'll try and get onto that one for you.
And Lowndes was in there as well. Garth Tander has stayed out to take advantage. This will show you what's going on the Zinger replay. Look at Lowndes comes out clean. There's no problems there. Then Winterbottom comes out, tries to get behind Ingle and does so. And all of a sudden, Kelly's stuck with nowhere to go.
You can see the hesitation. Remember, the rear view in these cars is bad. Tander was the lace reader.
For now, so we're nice and straight. Now. Go!
Again, they do the left-hand side. Tander holds his position. That will be Lowndes coming screaming down the main straight. Tander shoots back out. On the road, Jamie Whincup leads the race, yet to pit. And he's doing some good sector times out there, enjoying the clean air. He's looking to bank the time. Here's Scape. Dean Cano in car 34 alongside him.
Car number 1 is going to get a pit lane drive-through penalty. Rick Kelly's going to get a pit lane drive-through penalty for that contact with car number 3, I think it was, from memory. Whincup in.
drive-through penalty, mate. Take it now, drive-through penalty.
I've been sitting here puzzling on the jacks to 4 thing, and it suddenly dawned on me.
Exit, mate. Watch the floppies on exit. Okay, let's get our head down, mate. Great work.
The jacks to 4 command is when you want to change the working side, because you clearly need to jack up both ends of the car. Whincup here with Tander side by side. And he's got cold tyres on the car. It's on here. That was a good stop from Team Vodafone.
And what an aggressive re-entry from Jamie Whincup. He knew that Tander and co carrying an extraordinary amount of pace. Look at him.
Roger that, mate. No drama.
Rick Kelly, the championship leader, is not having a good weekend. Tander crosses underneath.
Lowndes nearly drilled the back of them all. He arrived with huge speed.
So now Garth Tander's got 2 Team Vodafone cars on his hammer.
Well, Stephen Richards back in the garage, not good news. A lot of frantic work going on with the car. What happened?
Just went on to 7 cylinders basically, so there's not much we can do there. Lost power, started getting past my car, so unfortunately it's a early end.
Yeah, not what you needed, Richo.
Oh no, then naturally you never like to be sitting in the garage, but anyway, we'll be right. We'll get it ready to go and come out in race 3 and hopefully maybe try and get into the points.
Is it similar to what Mark Winterbottom went through yesterday?
I don't know what Mark went through yesterday. His engine had a failure. We've gone on to 7 cylinders. So I don't know.
All right, Richo. Thanks, mate.
Thanks.
Mr. Consistency has now had his first DNF for season 2007. Stephen Richards, he'll be back for race 3. But what a battle! At the moment, Will Davison leads the race. 11 drivers yet to pit. Paul Morris is second on the road. Max Wilson is third. Lee Holdsworth fourth. John Bow makes up the top 5. For those who have pitted, Garth Tander leads. So Davison in.
Jack Tapper's up. Jack Tapper's up. Same as yesterday. Nice and aggressive into the box.
That hands the race lead now to Paul Morris. Max Wilson also come in. Steve Owens come in. Tander and Craig Lowndes are trading some pretty good times. That time was the best. You might have seen Tander just scoot on by. That was a 1:11.23. So that's lowered the time, raised the bar if you like, by 0.4 of a second. The quickest lap has just been done.
Frantic opening laps, and then one of these races that's really thrown up a wild sequence in the pit there, Matthew. It's amazing in the early laps. So 10 drivers yet to complete their compulsory pit stop. Tander with a little margin over Jamie Whincup.
Righto, mate. You just want to duck in fifth. Put your head down. Give us some good laps, mate.
As he goes past Greg Murphy, it puts him up into 19th position now on the road. But when all the pit stops have been sorted out, it will be a net loss of around 10 positions for Mark Skate.
Yeah, 11 seconds it was. So that was a bitter blow.
Yeah,
a lot of damage around the front there of Todd's car as well. There was a lot of nonsense in the braking area down at turn 3 on the first lap, and in the first couple of corners for the first few laps it got weird.
Sums it up pretty good, that word, nonsense. It's what it would have felt like in the middle of it, and there were quite a few in there.
Yeah, well, often what happens is you're getting whacked from behind and then cannoned into the guy in front of you, and you end up a bit of a passenger depending on who did what to who. I think they're going to park Jason Bright's car as well as Stephen Johnson takes his compulsory stop.
Go. Pit lane's all clear.
Skate now is trying to round up as many as he can. He's really turned the season around after Winton. He's on a 7-race streak of top 5 results after that round where he left the Victorian circuit with no points in the bank. And this man, Jamie Whincup, should effectively be in second place, which means that he's made up a couple from the start.
Guys, just to try and clarify, if we can, some of the Rick Kelly, that's what you're looking for here, is a lot of the software that teams actually use to predict how to bring your driver in. There's one for it's a pit lane speed monitor. Sorry, I've just started getting up here into the garage. We'll see if we can work on it. We'll come back to you in a sec.
All right, mate. Well, you're trying to make us fill in the dots there. Fast haircut too, Grant. Thanks very much. Whincup and Lowndes ganging up for an assault on Tander, but he has got some speed. The Toll HSV dealer team driver in front of them. The WPS car of Jason Bargwanna is in front of Mark Scaife. On the road, this is 17th versus 18th. When it's corrected with pit lanes, it'll be roughly 12th versus 11th. Bargwanna started from 14th position. He made some moves yesterday. Probably one of the quiet achievers. Went from 19th up to 14th. Continues to chip away at some points.
Holdsworth's got about an 8-second lead now over Shane Price. Cam McConville, Jack Perkins, Alan Gurr, Simon Wills. Then it's Tander in 7th. So Scaife here on Bargwanna on that onboard shot. And here's Holdsworth, the race leader. Brand spanking new car. Got off to a huge start on Friday with some real pace. Said it's the best car he's ever driven, the only new V8 supercar that he's had. Got a few graunches down the right-hand side.
He's 14th in the championship at the moment, the 24-year-old. He said he had the pace on Friday, right? He was top 10 in practice. He sort of held on to it throughout qualifying to be 13th.
As I suggested before, they have parked Jason Bright's car. You can see it's got a lot of damage there in the protective cell around the outside of the fuel tank on the car. It's not been a great weekend for the Fujitsu team, and I think I mentioned yesterday that that arrangement between Brytek and Fujitsu's been extended. Here's Mark Scaife on Jason Bargwanna down the inside here at turn 3. Done cleanly.
Moves him up to 17th and on corrected closer towards the top 10. Shane Price in and out.
Jason Bright, hard luck. Oh, can't take a trick. I mean, I go to the outside of turn 1 first race and the car gets turned around and into me, and you know, that time I thought I'd stay on the inside then of the back straight to keep out of the trouble, and Steve Owen runs into the back of me and, you know, slams me into the back of the next guy, and, you know, cop a heap of damage, and, you know, seem to be the only car that gets shown the loose bodywork flag, and, you know, our day's done. You know, it's just a joke. We've got a quick car here this weekend and thought that we'd be able to put on a good show for Fujitsu and Caterpillar and that, but, you know, we haven't had any luck at all. Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate.
Something that I was talking about before, you often find yourself the meat in the sandwich. There's nothing you can do. You get a whack from behind, pushes into the car in front. Then some of the bodywork will be dislodged, and then you cop the flag, and it is very frustrating. It's one of those things, and it does happen. There's a couple of key spots around the country. Turn 3 Queensland Raceway is one of them in the early part of a race where everybody drives down the inside, and if anyone mistimes their manoeuvre, it always ends up in nose-to-tail contact.
James Courtney tries to get on the back of the Team Vodafone Express, but Will Davison looks as though he's got a little bit more pace to challenge Courtney. That last lap was a 1:12.35 for Courtney and a 1:12.1 for Davison.
Whincup's trading quick lap times with Garth Tander, 11.7 last lap for him, 11.6 for Garth Tander. They're the only two in that sort of speed realm. There's a safety car on standby at the moment, so there could be an issue around the racetrack. Safety car boards have been deployed. The yellow flags are flying, so there's something going on out there at the moment, and here's the reason why. Jason Bargwanna is buried.
So Garth Tander was pulling further and further away from the two 888 cars. And now it's squashed the field right back together. The WPS Chrysler safety car comes out.
You okay in there, Bugs? Yeah, mate.
Aside from the fact that he's not going anywhere, he's fine.
The brake pedal just like halfway through the stop, it just goes bang, just straight to the floor. And there was absolutely nothing there. I was heading straight to the fence, so I decided to spin it round. Yeah, mate, I can see that on the telemetry.
And he's had a brake issue. It says the pedal went to the floor and the car's just fired off down there at 6. From that angle, it looks like there could have been contact, but there wasn't any contact, just some kind of a brake issue for the WPS team, unfortunately.
He saw those white tyres that you see, they saw that tyre wall and thought the best course of action here is to spin it round and
Don't worry, mate.
take it in softly, softly approach.
Okay. Your pace is still pretty good, Russell. Davison's a bit quicker than Courtney. You've got about the same pace as Courtney and the two 888 cars in front of him.
Scaife here, position 11. And what a costly pit stop it was for him with the problem with the right rear and the wheel change for his car on the compulsory pit stop. Under the control now of the WPS Chrysler safety car, and they'll retrieve that car of Jason Bargwanna's pretty quickly out of the gravel. He's up at turn 6, and this regroups the field now and gives rise to the possibility that it could set fire to all these guys again, as we saw in the opening couple of laps of the race.
I didn't get a chance to see how far Tander was ahead. In terms of time, 5 or 6 seconds, it looked, he was pulling away.
He had a margin, and he just had a 10th or 2 most laps over Jamie Whincup.
I reckon the interesting battle there will be not only the 888 cars versus Tander, but Davison carrying in some speed against Courtney for 4th and 5th. I reckon Will's probably got enough confidence now to have a crack.
Rick Kelly's going to come into the pit lane, and the reason he's going to come in is because he's so far back in the field, he's going to come in, make a change, learn what they can from it, and then try and use it to effect, because it's not going to burn him. He's the last car in the queue here. Here he is. Good bit of thinking there on Rick's part. They're just making a roll centre adjustment there. Smart thinking on Rick's part, because he was the last car in the queue behind the safety car. So he called up his engineer, Rick Pender, and said, let's just make a change. We're not going to lose anything, because we'll catch back up to the end of the train anyway, because they're all trundling around doing 60 or 70 kilometres an hour. And if it works out to be the right adjustment, we're laughing for race 3.
And how did he get in that position in the first place, Neil? Well, it all caused by those pit lane dramas. Why? Well, it's got a lot to do with the fact that being a championship leading team, you get the final spot here down pit lane, which means you get a clean exit. But the problem for Rick is that cone off in the distance. He has to get around to the right of that. The angle that he has to make to do that means he can't see the oncoming cars down pit lane. He has to rely on verbal communication. And that was causing the drama. The verbal communication, as I start to break up again, is what was causing the drama. We'll come back to you later. We'll get it fixed, I promise.
A very graphic illustration of verbal communication gone wrong. Thanks, mate. But we do get the picture now.
Yeah, and the point that the crowd is making is a good one. You just cannot see rearward in the cars. You have very limited vision down the side of the car, so you do rely on the radio or that light system that we saw that team using at Darwin. But he was getting confusing signals, and because it's a very, very difficult thing when you're the car controller to decide whether or not you're going to slot your car in exactly the right spot, you get less than fractions of seconds to think it through as we restart race number 2.
Has anyone got to move early on? Tander, Whincup, Lowndes, Courtney, Davison, Ingle.
I tell you, he's having a good race. Paul Morris in the Sirame Wines entry Local test track for him, up to position 8, car number 67. He's not too far behind these guys. There he is behind Winterbottom. Good pace. Didn't have a great run on Friday, and it was his teammate Steve Ellery that was super quick.
He's had 6 straight races now inside the points, Paul Morris. So he's starting to put together a nice consistent run in the middle of the championship.
That little underbody panel that was loose on Mark Scaife's car is also loose on Paul's car. It'll be for the same reason, because of nose-to-tail contact in the early part of the race. You'll see it flapping here. It's just the shroud under the back of the tank, and it's crafted in such a way that it helps the exit air at the back of the car to try and help the flow through the underbody. That's not helping the flow through Todd Kelly's car. This is very rare, Matthew, where there's a bit of a margin between everybody after a safety car. You know, Garth's got a 1.1 second lead there as they cross the start-finish line on that lap, and typically they all tear each other apart on a restart, but they've actually ended up with little margins here and there. It gets tighter when you get back in the pack, and there is that daunting curb that the leap off the side of it gets bigger with every lap because they dig the dirt out behind the curb. Plenty of people have found the gravel and the rocks over the weekend.
It's Jason Bargwanna heading back, WPS entrant. Great news for team owner Craig Gore on the other side of the world. In the Champ Car World Series, the Aussie Vineyards Team Australia driver Will Power has pole position for round 8 in Edmonton, Canada. For our 7 viewers, you'll see it first thing Tuesday morning, late Monday night, 10 to 1 Tuesday morning.
Jason Richards is in the middle of the 2 Holden Racing Team cars here. You've got Todd Kelly 9th and Mark Scaife in 11th.
Jason Bargwanna, we're on the walk back to the long, lonely walk. What happened, mate?
We got down to turn 4, and as I got halfway through the braking zone, the pedal went straight to the floor, so I ran off in turn 4. I was just trying to get it back to the pits, but when I got down to turn 60, there was absolutely no brakes, so I had to spin the thing rather than head straight into a fence. So, yeah, obviously we've got some sort of failure there somewhere, but no brakes is not good in one of these cars.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Tander's margin now is 1.5 seconds over Whincup. Lowndes, the watching brief, still 3rd. Courtney, here he is. And he can't afford to relax. He's got his mate Will Davison right behind. Then there is a bit of a margin back to Russell Ingall. Mark Winterbottom having a better run today. Paul Morris in 8th. Todd Kelly in 9th. Jason Richards is in the top 10. And that's a good recovery from where those guys were yesterday, where they didn't finish the race and had a tough one. Not his favourite track.
Just looked a little bit more ominous before the safety car came out for Davison onto Courtney, but Courtney has responded to the challenge. And Russell Ingall, who started 9th, is up to 6th.
Pretty relaxed there, cruising down the straight. He's got Mark Winterbottom behind. He had a glimpse in the mirror just to see what was going on there with Mark. But that's that margin that I spoke about before. Let's have a bit of a listen to Russell at work as he has a blast down the back straight here. 245 kilometres an hour. Turn 6 there for Russell. Now looking at just how hard the left rear tyre works on these cars. You watch as we head down here to turn 1. First of all, take note of those bumps. There's the ripple strip on the outside, and look at the case deflection. That's the rim protruding through the centre there. And again at turn 2, look at the distortion there. Here comes the curbing on the outside, over the sawtooth curb. Sixth gear briefly, 245 k's into turn 3, and then a little bit of flame from the unburnt fuel that ignites in the hot exhaust. Back to second gear, 75 k's, third, fourth, fifth, past the newly flattened curve that was done a couple of years ago after that turn 3 incident, 220 odd k's, down then to 90 kilometres an hour. There's Winterbottom in the background. Rusty's using third gear through turns 4 and 5, accelerating off 5 from about 135 k's, back up to 215 kilometres an hour, and then back down again to second gear, 75 kilometres an hour. Huge distortion again on the left rear tyre with the load on it.
Garth Tander now has a 2.2 second lead over Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes. And it's Courtney Davison, Ingle, Winterbottom. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Fords behind the leading VE Commodore. We're going to ride the bumps. Feel like you're on a trampoline. Shane Price and Andrew Jones down at turn 3. Little nudge. And Mark Scaife has been picking away throughout the field. This time his teammate gives him room. So that moves Scaife inside the top 10 now to 9th position. Paul Morris is in front of him.
So he's got a few more car lengths now before he gets back in touch with Paul Morris.
And Garth Tander is our race leader. Jamie Whincup has closed the gap a little. It was out to 2.2 seconds. It's down to 1.7. But there's a couple of things going on here in the championship picture in terms of Garth Tander.
Shane Price is going to get a black flag for that contact that he had with Andrew Jones down at turn 3, so he'll do a drive-through for that.
The first thing that's going on, Neil, with Tander is against his teammate. Remember, Rick Kelly leads the championship, and after the race that we had yesterday, the gap was cut down to 26 points. If it stays the way it does right now, with Rick Kelly out of the points in this race and Tander at the top, as we head to round 3, this man will be just 2 points off the championship lead. But he's also extending his lead to the guy behind him in the championship, Todd Kelly, because that's going towards him as well. And he could end up with an even bigger gap in between second and third. So everything in terms of numbers is going right for the man in front at the moment.
Things going all right too for Team Cerame. Matty, you mentioned getting it right into the middle of the year. I just spoke to Nigel Barclay. They're very, very pleased. Didn't make many changes with the car, but Paul's driving well because the car's going well. He's just been passed though. However, he's just been picked off now by Mark Scaife down the back straight.
11 laps to go. Team Cerame's Paul Morris. He's up to 9th position now after starting from 12th. So it's been a go-forward weekend. Encouraging signs, good signs heading towards the Enduros with Stephen Ellery up to 15th in his return to V8 Supercar racing this year. On board with Rick Kelly. Down to turn 1. Oh, a little bit of a moment. Out onto the dirt.
And I'd say that'd be a little bit too much rear roll centre. Possibly. Because that's what he came in and adjusted, and a car that jumps sideways in the middle of the turn like that may have a little bit too much load on its nose. Perhaps. Lots of different reasons why that could happen, but that's not a nice handling car. And I think my recollection is that he said he wanted to take the rear roll centre up in the car, which makes the car...
No problem at all.
Campbell has a look at the telemetry screen in front of him. Campbell Little, Craig's engineer, just to make sure that that water temperature is okay. Craig doesn't see it unless it alarms on the dash. He's basically getting just a bar graph showing up here and the shift lights, and you also see a speed readout. You can configure your dashboard any way you like, but the only time that you'd see a water alarm would be if it goes outside the settings that you've got. Very different line approach into turn 6 there for Craig compared to his teammate. It's a great shot. The run down the front straight. He's got great pace still. 11.7 on that lap, 11.9 for Jamie Whincup, 12.1 for Craig Lowndes. Skaife's also in the 11s, 11.8. He's down in 8th, which we'd expect because he was racing in the lead with this man early on before the jammed right rear wheel nut.
One of the keys to, in particular, Garth Tander's success this season, and that's what it has been because he's now got 8 race wins, is being fast at every track as soon as they get there. Friday practice, he's always been top 6 at least. Qualifying, he's one of only 2 drivers to be top 10 every single round. Race 1 hasn't been a problem. Races 2 and 3, he's piecing together a championship attack. Riding every line with the enforcer.
8 to go.
At the start of a race, you're quick towards the end and you can piece together the middle section, which includes the compulsory pit stop. You've pretty much ticked all 3 boxes. In a 38-lap race, Lee Holdsworth in 10th position. They tell me it's the first time he's ever had a brand new anything car. I reckon he's never had a brand new go-kart, never had a brand new family car. And our mate Daniel Gibson down there in pit lane wanted to buy him. You know those little trees that you get that make new car smells? Wanted to put one of those in on the windscreen of the mirror for him, just to give him that feeling.
Oh, and we're just in time to see Ellery get crossed up and have a moment in the dirty stuff on the outside of turn 2. And he's still got the engine running and up and away once again.
Yeah, right. We've got about 6 laps left here. Just bring it home. Absolutely, come on.
He's just out in the dirty stuff there, and that's what caused him the problem.
Yeah, we can see that, mate. You've been pretty wounded the last couple of laps. Just keep on going. We'll get to the finish and see if we can see.
Good news there for Rick Kelly, who just snuck through on the inside of all that.
Well, Rick was lining up John Bow in the Glenfritz Racing entry and ended up getting a bit of a free ride thanks to stuff going on behind him. Here's Greg Murphy and Jason Richards. Positions 12 and 13, so they've really reeled back this weekend.
Well, both of them have had a difficult weekend so far, but encouraging to see them circulating and certainly just on the outside of the top 10. And Greg's flicked the lights on, yes indeed, Greg flicked the lights on a couple of laps ago and he's getting a little bit impatient. I think he felt he could have got around the outside of Jason at some point, but it looks like that's settled down for the moment.
There's 2 words you don't often hear, Neil. Greg Murphy and impatient. Let's have a look down here before I get myself into more hot water. Just spoken to Campbell Little from 888. He says that there is no engine oil or water problems with Craig Lowndes' car. Just go for it, son.
Max Wilson is behind Murphy. And Max has often found himself right at the cut-off spot of the points. Remember, top 15 is where the points are allocated to, and both Max and Jason Bargwanna, the WPS team, have found themselves midfield, which is
5 to go, Max. 5 to go. Good lap.
it's not an easy place to race. So they're really doing a good job with what they've got. Here's Mark Scaife. Found himself all the way back after a nasty, nasty pit stop, and he's pushed himself all the way back into position 8th. He started 2nd. I think he went back as far as about 20th.
He's well in touch here on the back of Mark Winterbottom, so if he's got the speed in amongst the traffic that he was showing in clear air, that you can see the green boxes on the screen there, the gains that he's been making in recent laps, 1/3 of a second on each of those laps, then he might well get another spot here. Winterbottom's just in front, then Ingle and Davison. It's much harder, of course, when you get onto the back of another car. You can't quite see as well. You can't find the ideal spot to position your car or apply the brake pedal. and it doesn't take much for the other driver to move one way or another, just a fraction. He's sending him some Morse code signals there. Should be, I'd just like to slide on by.
How much attention do you pay?
Oh, you definitely see them. You catch them in your mirror. And with the damage to the front end of that car of Steve Ellery's, and perhaps with the tyres looking a bit second-hand on the rear of that car, he's got his hands full there at turn 2 again. You definitely see it, Matty. You get into a bit of an orbit out there where you notice the tiniest things sometimes off in the distance or whatever, and often you see the lights and it just makes you dig in a bit deeper.
What you're saying is you see the lights and ignore them,
basically. But it's worth trying. You try everything. You don't have horns on these cars, so you do the best you can. Incidentally, just thinking of Winterbottom there, FPR are heading north after this weekend on a bit of a tour through North Queensland with their guys. And we know we have a huge fan base up through North Queensland.
I think it's a 1,400k road trip with all their merchandise trucks and Stephen Richards
Ready to go, Will. Keep the pressure on.
and Mark Winterbottom visiting places like Bundaberg, Gladstone, Mackay, Rockhampton, Townsville. FPR.com.au is their website. Check it out if you want to get the details, but they're off on a road trip.
Well, James Courtney currently sitting in 4th place and working hard to try and stay ahead of Will Davis. I was just speaking to Ross Stone. He says it's a tough spot for James to be in. The car's taken a lot of knocks during the course of the race, and James has just got a limp at home now, so that's what he's working on.
It's Ross's brother Jimmy. So he's held on to his position effectively, James Courtney. He started in 3rd, but slotted back to 4th in all the riffraff that was going on, and he's managed to hold on to that. Attack after attack, lap by lap from Will Davison.
Incidentally, Rick Kelly's up to 16th now. If he gets one more spot, that gets him back in the points. And it's a good battle going on between both the youngsters there from Ford, Will Davison and James Courtney, and a good battle here that is now tipped around the other way. So Greg Murphy in car number 51 is in front of Jason Richards.
2 laps to go, James. 2 laps to go. Hang in there.
That puts Murph in 11th, in 12th position. Jason back in 13th. Dean Canto's the man in 15th at the moment. This is the move that Greg Murphy put on his teammate. Richards wasn't going to give up that without a fight either. Have a look at him. Goes aggressive on the exit there of turn 3. And meanwhile, Garth Tander has a 3-second lead in front of Jamie Whincup.
It's interesting looking at the sector splits because Tander is no faster than Whincup, and if anything a little bit slower than Lowndes and Courtney in the first sector, but he's very good through this middle sector, turns 3, 4 and 5.
I would not be surprised at all to see Will Davison had a final lunge at James Courtney, and Will is having that effect behind these guys of carrying the cars behind him, which is Ingle, Winterbottom and Scaife along for the ride. Craig Lowndes, a 3-time winner at this circuit. Here's this little battle. Courtney is definitely fighting hard to hold on to this position. The 2 young guns.
Last lap, James. Last lap. Caution for a car off at turn 3. Caution at turn 3.
There you go. We've got something off. And that's Wheel. He's celebrating his birthday today and his return to V8 Supercar racing ahead of the Enduros. Filling in for Paul Dumbrell.
So that means there'll be a yellow down there, so there can't be any passing under the yellow. So and a couple of drivers were kind of looking as though they might have had a lunge on the last lap down there too. Often when you pull out the wrong direction, you can't actually see the flag, which is a trap. So it'll be a checkered flag for Garth Tander on this lap. He's coming out of the middle complex. Here's the battle between Scaife and Winterbottom. These guys are 7th and 8th. 1 corner to run now for Garth Tander. It's looking very much like 2006 for this man.
It certainly is. The numbers just continue to stack up.
Stellar drive, GT. Absolutely brilliant.
He's already done it once this season. Can Garth Tander do another clean sweep? Whincup second, Lowndes third.
A lot better than yesterday. Looked after his tyres really, really well. Great job.
Courtney He holds on for fourth. Will Davison fifth. Ingle, Winterbottom Skate. Paul Morris just goes past. Lee Holdsworth. There's Todd Kelly and Greg Murphy. And Jason Richards with Max Wilson and Dean Canto inside the top 15.
Tander said yesterday that he thought that he could adjust the car to make it a bit nicer on the rear tyres, and he just confirmed that it was nicer on the rear tyres, so that was a good move. Whatever they did, whatever they adjusted.
And this is the incident that involved Paul Wheel, just locked it up, going the wrong way at turn 3. He
tried to catch it. He locked the rear brakes here just as he was turning the car in, so he didn't have all the speed wiped off it, and it's rotated through 180 degrees. And then when he's tried to gas it up and go, it was just into the edge of the gravel trap there and buried the car.
Rick Kelly has finished 16th, one spot out of the points. So Garth Tander has put another 24 points in the bank, put himself closer, now just 2 points behind overall on the championship to his teammate. This is how they finish provisionally. Garth Tander, Whincup and Lowndes make up our podium. Have a look at the bank of Fords there from 2nd down to 7th. Scaife, a good fight back from him, and we already mentioned that Paul Morris is really putting together a consistent weekend. Canto, the 15th, so he will get the last of the available points, and some troubles for Alan Gurr and co as we go back down through the field. And it was another one of those races. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DNFs. 6 in race 1, 5 in race 2. Highlights the difficult nature of this circuit. It looks pretty simple, but is quite tough. Cloud cover coming across, but it's pretty much been a bright, sunshiny day since Garth Tander arrived.